Oh yes, the sounds of Master Plan enlighten me, and the sounds of Total Biscuit here on Blue Please on WoW Radio. Oh yeah. Right, I have an interesting topic to cover. So I shall tell you a story, as is usually the best way to introduce such concepts. So here we go. We were in Ulduar, as you might expect, on Wednesday for the reset clear, and our usual raid leader wasn't around. Now, our usual raid leader, he's a great guy. He goes by the name of Mikey. He's been with this guild for a very, very, very long time. He's the guild master. Now, the guild that I'm currently in, Lethe on Mazrigo, they shut down for most of TBC. I was in their guild during the Chthon and Nax era, and we were basically third on the server, and we were pretty good. Yep, we killed Chthon, we were progressing through Nax, when raid apathy hit, and the guild basically shut down, and never really fully recovered from that. Now, it had a big resurgence in Wrath, and I got back into it there. Unfortunately, a lot of the original members had either joined other guilds, or transferred, or just stopped playing the game entirely. There's a few originals, but not that many. Now, Mikey is of the opinion that we should always just basically ignore the hard modes entirely on 25 and just go straight through. But we had a different raid leader this week, and I was able to convince that raid leader that we should do Flame Leviathan with a couple of towers up, yeah? Because let's face it, it's not that hard. It's more challenging than usual, but it's not that hard. And there's extra loot and badges and stuff to be had, and it's a challenge, more so than usual, which is good. We'd already blitzed it on 10-man with our kind of elite group, which raids every now and again just for the sake of it. So we thought, hey, it'll be okay. Now, we've been having issues with the guild lately because we've got a lot more guilds, like pro guilds, better guilds indeed, on Mazrigo than we used to. And there's a lot more competition. Now, generally speaking, that's a good thing. Unfortunately, there's only a finite number of good players to go around. And it seems to me, and this is no offense to Lethe, but I think they know this is true, that a lot of our members just seem to not really be all there. Yeah? They're not with it. They're not always focused. They're not on the ball. They do some really stupid stuff. I mean, we had a guy, and I'm not going to name names because that would just be incredibly unfair, but this new hunter that we had, who claimed to know all the strategies for Flame Leviathan, because let's face it, it's not that hard. You know, it's like, we're asking, right, does anyone not know what they're doing? Because once we get started, we're just not going to stop. We're just going to go straight through. It's like, no, it's fine. And we asked him specifically, do you know what you're doing? It's like, yeah, I know exactly what I'm doing in this vehicle, blah, blah, blah. Excellent. So, off we go. And, of course, he ends up not knowing what he's doing. And it's like, oh, for God's sake, really? We also had another issue with this guy, whereby we were discussing the DKP for the item that I was actually after. Now, our DKP system involves bidding in increments of 10, starting from 30. You can't bid anything else. Now, the guy who was competing with me went all in, but his all-in bid was only 5 higher than my last bid. Thereby, basically, the bid was invalid. Now, we're sitting around and we're basically saying, okay, right, so I get the loot, etc., etc. When this one guy types, this new guy in raid chat, it's like, alright, either you accept that bid or you pass, so get on with it. And I'm like, are you a bloody stupid or what? I mean, had you bothered to read all of the stuff about our DKP on the website, then we wouldn't have this problem. You'd know for a fact that this wasn't an issue. That, and if you were bloody listening on Vent, you wouldn't have this problem. I mean, what is it with you? And I basically told him to, go elsewhere. That would be the light way of putting it. I was like, seriously, listen. This is your problem. You do not listen. Now, what point does this have? Well, it's quite simple. We go onto Flame Leviathan with 2 towers up. Yeah, we pick the 2 easiest, which are Lightning and Fire. Yeah, we kill Freya's tower and we kill the other one, which I forget, Hodia's, yes, which is a rock-hard evil tower. We think, hey, this shouldn't be a problem. Now, we wipe the first couple of times, and it's for stupid reasons. It's like people driving straight into the fire and or lightning beams. It's like, these things are huge! They're, like, massive! How can you possibly miss them? Evidently, they can't miss them. Therein lies the problem. They drive straight into the damn things. It was horrendous. We had people that couldn't fire the cannons properly. And let me remind you that these are the guys who said, yeah, we knew what we were doing. We all know what we're doing. Oh, yeah, we absolutely know what we're doing. We've watched all the videos. We've read the strategies. We've done Flame Leviathan how many bloody times. We know what we're doing. And evidently they didn't. Because people were missing and being killed when they were trying to get shot up there. Guys not doing DPS on the proper targets. It was bloody mess is what it was. Anyway, regardless, after a little bit of brute force and ignorance and a lot of shouting from myself and the raid leader and my class leader on Ven, who's one of the more assertive people, and yes, he's very good at what he does, we get him down to like 15%, right? And to me, this, personally, as someone who has raided the tough stuff when it mattered, this is kind of embarrassing, because Flame Leviathan I know is not hard. On 4 towers, it's pretty freaking tricky, don't get me wrong, but 2 towers should not be an issue for a guild of what used to be that caliber, and yet it was anyway. Now we're getting down to 15%, and there's argument within the guild as to whether or not we should just kill it on normal mode and then go on. Yeah, there's a bunch of people that want to take one of the towers down to make it easier, and when I explained to them, I was like, oh, well, you know what, we're not going to get any hard mode loot if we do that. We'll get an extra emblem, and that'll be it. Yeah? Which is kind of a waste, and we've got him, yeah? We'll have him the next couple of attempts if you guys bloody listen. We'd have had it the first time if you'd bloody listened. And there's people that said, oh, well, just take all the towers down. We don't care, we want progress. And there's other guys like, I want the achievement, blah, blah, blah. And there's all these different people in the guild that all want these different things. Now, this never used to be the case. Because the one unifying factor of most guilds, and this is where I'm seeing a bit of a problem with this hard mode system we have going on here, and this non-linear progression. Back in the day, the one thing that unified guilds was the next target, yeah? And that was it. It was as simple as that. Everything linked together. It's like some people might be there for the loot. Yeah, well, getting the loot involves killing the bosses. Yeah? Some people are there for the progress. Well, progress is killing bosses. We all know that, right? And it was obvious as to which boss you had to kill next. Maybe there was a little bit of debate when there was quite a few instances open, particularly in TBC. It's like, oh, well, should we go farm SSC today, or should we go progress in BT? There was a bit of debate on that regard, but generally speaking, that could be gotten around with good scheduling, yeah, because they weren't mutually exclusive. You could do SSC and it wouldn't affect doing BT or doing Sunwell or whatever. That would be okay. Now it's not the case. Now we've got to make a choice. We've got to make a choice and say, right, do we continue to bang our heads against this hard mode and beat it and get the good stuff, yeah, and hopefully say, hey, we've achieved something today? Do we make the hard mode easier and, well, we've achieved kind of half of something today? Or do we get rid of the hard mode entirely and just wipe through it easily, just walk all over it and get on to the next encounter so that we can do progress, yeah? Now, the problem is they're both progress in their different ways. Beating a hard mode is just as much progress now as beating a boss you haven't killed before, because it's killing, obviously, a harder version of the boss, you're getting an achievement, you're getting extra loot, it's progress. MMO Champion considers it progress. There's plenty of sites that do. They're keeping track of this kind of thing on a Hall of Fame. World firsts for hard modes, that kind of thing. Which is interesting. I mean, we predicted this would happen, of course, but it's not something that's happened before. So it is kind of intriguing. The problem that I'm having with it is it's showing really where people's interests lie. We've already had the issue in small amounts when we were doing NACs and stuff like that, because people want to shoot for achievements and things like that, and it was kind of split down the middle. Half the guild wanted to do achievements, and half of them didn't. Now, I don't care about achievements in any respect, right? I mean, I'm okay with trying for something like the Immortal, because to be honest, you should be doing that anyway. Eh? You shouldn't be dying anyway. That's kind of the point. You're not supposed to die on bosses, at least if you're doing what you're supposed to do. So that's fine. But doing stuff like Spore Loser and all that kind of stuff, no. Doing the whole, oh, let's kill all the 4 horsemen within like 5 seconds of each other or whatever it is. No, no, no. Kill 18 of the abominations. Why? For what possible reason? Like, some of this stuff is just silly. And we've discussed this in past shows, so we don't need to go into this in detail. But the hard mode thing has really blown this kind of schism in my guild up into a bigger proportion that actually matters now. It's not so easy to dismiss people. Indeed, I'm on the side of the guys who think that we should be doing some hard modes, right? I don't think we're geared up enough to do XT's hard mode on 25 yet, although I think we can do it on 10. I think that we should be trying to get all 4 towers on Flamelev, and the reason for that is that, to be honest, your gear does not affect that encounter much. It does a bit, don't get me wrong, because of course the vehicle scale with your item level of gear, but there's a bunch of guilds that killed 4 towers on like the first week, and they're wearing the same gear that we are. That means that it is entirely doable It's got nothing to do with being a gear check or anything like that, and a lot of these hard modes are. The DPS checks, healing checks, tank checks, whatever it is. It's got nothing to do with that. It's to do with execution, performance, doing everything right and efficiently in the best way possible. It's not about class balance. It's not about how you composite your raid together. It's not about anything like that. It's just about pure, simple cohesion and skill. Now that, in my opinion, is the best hard mode, and that's what we should be shooting for. Because there's nothing holding us back other than people sucking. And people shouldn't be sucking in a raiding guild of that caliber. Now I do wonder how many other guilds are having this issue. How many other guilds have got groups of people that want to do the hard modes, groups of people that don't want to touch the hard modes, groups of people that are interested in the achievements, groups of people that are not interested in the achievements? What actually happens when all of those groups of people clash together? And all of those conflicting interests come into play? Because this time, it's mutually exclusive. There are some achievements that you just have to do in a certain way. And there are some hard modes that you have to do in a certain way. And if you kill it on hard mode, you don't get to do it on easy. Kill it on easy, you don't get to do it on hard. It's not the same thing as back in TBC where you had to choose between instances. As some people have made that comparison. It's not the same thing. It's mutually exclusive. Now, to me, that's a bit of an issue. Don't get me wrong. Hard modes, as a principle, are good. I like the extra challenge. Especially bearing in mind they're nerfing the crap out of everything. And I wish they'd bloody stop it. We're talking about that later. I like them as a principle. I like them as a concept. However, the execution is causing an inordinate amount of conflict within guilds. I don't think my guild's unique in this. That just seems bizarre. I would not be surprised, and indeed you can email me at themurloc@gmail.com and tell me whether or not your guild has experienced anything similar. Conflict of interest between those who just want to progress and those who want to do hard modes. Let me know. themurloc@gmail.com. Now, I think what this all culminates in is a lack of direction, and this is something that was mentioned on the Pug episode with Insidia. There's a lack of direction in where Blizzard wants people to go. It's always been very defined, it's always been very clear, and it's very easy to have a unified front with your guild when things and your progress path are clear and straight in front of you, with no doubts. It's like, we are going to go kill this boss, and everyone's like, yeah, let's go kill this boss, and nothing else really crosses their mind. People are more focused that way. There's less conflict within guilds, there's less drama, always a good thing. Can't have progress when you're too busy killing each other. And yet now, not so much. No achievements, which I was always against achievements anyway. It's obvious what the progress path is, at least as regards to instances. You go next to Ulduar. But now, you got a situation where it's like, well, Ulduar 10 or 25. Ulduar 10 hards, Ulduar 10 normal. Ulduar 10 hard gear is better than Ulduar 25 normal. Or Ulduar 25 hards, should we do that? Which hard should we do? Some of them seem attainable, some of them don't. Which should we try? Which level should we try them on? Should we have Flame Lev with 1, 2, 3 or 4 towers? Should we have Freya with 1, 2 or 3 or no Guardians? All of these crazy choices that have to be made and these disagreements. Don't get me wrong, variety, choice, very good thing, I like that. Admittedly, I think that perhaps just putting the content out there and forcing the players to just make the decisions themselves is a little bit of a hands-off approach. I don't necessarily object to it, but it's a matter of precedent, yeah? It's a matter of the fact that for the last 4 years, we've been given a very clear path to go down, a very clear direction for our progress, and now that's all in flux. And I don't think some guilds are adapting to it well, mine included. Sure, I think that people will adapt to it eventually. They'll get the idea that now it's a whole bunch of different modes that you can try, but I think it's going to cause some confusion. And it's going to cause some conflict. And it's going to cause that conflict in older raiding guilds that are more accomplished, as opposed to, you know, casual scrub guild, or indeed the other end of the spectrum, bleeding edge hardcore guild, who are obviously shooting for hard modes because they want to go do Algernon, they want to get the best gear. That makes sense, of course. But the majority of guilds are not like that. The majority of guilds are not terrible either. So it's an interesting situation. Email your thoughts on this topic to themurloc@gmail.com. I'd like to hear your stories as regards to this. And you're listening to Blue Please here on WoW Radio with myself, Total Biscuit. I'll be right back after this, folks. Enjoy.